Hi, I am Cardinal Dr. Elizabeth Samantha Rothschild, and today I am addressing the issue of larceny. Well, the topic, we're going to cover the topic briefly here about larceny. Now, let's start by identifying what property is, the types of property. There's real property, private property, government-owned property, personal property. And the number one, though last mentioned, is intellectual property. When it comes to property, there's tangible property, that means it can be seen and touched, and there is intangible property, which is abstract and such as airspace, can't be clearly defined by the sense of touch. We have the commutative properties, associative properties, distributive properties, closure property, and identity property. As well, we're still talking about property. Residential, commercial, industrial, land, and special purposes properties. All property belongs to one of three categories. It can either be categorized as real property, personal property, or intellectual property. Now that property has been defined, let's talk about larceny. Larceny is the theft of personal property. Some terms that are synonymous with the term larceny are theft, stealing, robbery, pilfering, thieving, thievery, purloining, burglary, housebreaking, breaking and entering, appropriation, which let me put a pin right here. Appropriation, because we consider appropriations in business and in law when it comes to finances and budgets. It is not a crime when it's done in business and in law, but appropriating something that is not of your account or that you're not responsible for handling, okay? Expropriation, misappropriation, lifting, filching, swiping, nicking, pinching, and I'm not speaking of sorority and fraternity pinching. I'm pinching as a theft, pinching off of a budget, taking a little bit at a time. Further terms are half-inching, not paying everything that you're supposed to pay, or not distributing everything properly the way that it should be distributed in proper amounts. Blagging and peculation. Larceny is a crime involving the unlawful taking or theft of the personal property of another person or business. Larceny can't be committed if you have possession of the property, meaning it's your property. If it's your property, you get to dispose of it how you want to dispose of it, okay? So that is not larceny. However, if you have custody of something that is not yours, that is larceny of that property. Larceny by trick. Larceny by trick is a felonious crime. It is the taking of property with permission gained through a lie as to present circumstances. If you lie at all about something in order to gain something, then that is larceny. Proof of larceny would be wrongful taking or carrying away of property. The absence of consent from the organization or state or local government agency, and intent. Your intention is to deprive the organization or state or local government agency of its property. So taking something to keep someone else from having their things, not giving someone something that belongs to them and you're in custody of it. Let's consider things personal and business, such as time theft. As much as intellectual property belongs to someone, so does their time. Time is money. If you lie to get time with someone or lie to get into interactions and associations, then you are guilty of larceny. Now, let's talk about grand larceny. Okay, grand larceny applies when the value of the property stolen is above a certain monetary threshold. The general range of open offense is between $500 to $1,000. So larceny began somewhere between those numbers, and anything above that $1,000 open offense is larceny. Grand larceny. Wrongful and fraudulent taking and carrying away of goods from any place with a felonious intent to convert them to the taker's use and make it their own property without the consent of the owner. So to take something that belongs to someone else with the intentions of keeping it for yourself, not giving it to the person it belongs to or taking it from the person it belongs to, whether they know about it or not, that's grand larceny. Grand larceny occurs by false representation of a material, past, or existing fact, which the person making the representation knows is false, posing as a long-lost relative, posing as an old and dear friend, posing as a good person with good intentions when the intentions are really bad or poor intentions. Making false representation using material, past, and existing fact. So something that used to be true or something that occurred in the past or is occurring presently, and taking that information and misrepresenting how one feels about it, misrepresenting or distorting the facts of the situation, or bearing an association to something that happened or is occurring. Those are proofs of grand larceny. I would also say, yes, when you know it's false, deliberately deceiving someone. And it's really tricky because when a person knows that they are being deceived, but that's an intangible crime, there's no proofs, they may not always say something, that can cause the victim to have to be in cognizant impairment, meaning they know what's going on, they're going along with it, but they do not agree with it, they have no other way to excise the situation without violent interaction or threat of life. Now, protections against larceny and grand larceny. One, always convey facts in truth and all verity. You don't have to necessarily have paperwork when it comes to proving something. Testimony, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Pressed against detections of lies. That's a good way to protect yourself. Okay, but where paperwork is required, and without the paperwork, then the representation is just a misrepresentation of fact. Okay. Another thing is to keep your information secure. Now, how do you do this? By the truth. Keep your information secure by the truth. Monitor your climate and environment. It means you have to notice what's going on. Infiltrations or entrances into a climate or environment could go either way, and you just have to be aware, basically. Only measure anything by the truth. Anything that is compared to, say, comparable, associated, that seems alike, that seems the same, okay, those aren't level comparisons. each individual thing needs to be measured by the truth. And the truth is the only proper scale by which anything can be measured. And lastly, identify and eliminate distortions of the truth and distortions of reality. When you don't know, you don't know. But when you know better, do better. Always represent yourself properly. Represent others properly, because it is not anyone's accountability or responsibility to represent someone else. And authorizations are made for that, such as proxy, such as powers of attorney. But without that, it's no one's accountability or responsibility to represent another. Custodial rights, well, that's something totally different, but that is an authority to make representation. Otherwise, in a level balance, there is no accountability. Define properly all of your relationships and associations for what they are. It could be a relative, biologically related, maybe adopted in. Being related to someone or associated to them in a familial tie does not give anyone the right to commit larceny or any other crimes against them. Criminal activity is illegal, whether you are related to someone or associated to them or not. Some persons are in business or better yet, when people go to work and they have coworkers, well, they have to know that person if they're in that workplace, and they don't have a choice because they're not doing the hiring or the firing. And so persons that have full-time jobs, well, even part-time jobs, persons that have jobs that work with other people have to represent themselves in all truth and verity, that they're not victimized by someone larceny. And so that helps to protect all of those things. So it's about knowing your facts, and it's also about representing those facts. Not all the time should something be said there's cognitive impairment, but when there's cognitive impairment, it is best to either get documentation of the things that are going on in the larcenous attacks, and or contact local authorities, state authorities, federal authorities, and start making reports, even if it's by web form, if it's by letter, email, going into an office and reporting it. We have to protect ourselves against larceny. Larceny can be hard to prove, and it can be so difficult to prove it that before you know it, grand larceny has been committed. What about when people's lives are stolen? Someone would live their life a particular way if someone else had not entered into their lives, if someone had not forced them to be around them and be in company with them and be in presence with them. To get away from people, sometimes it takes violent interactions, such as arguments, sometimes fights. The threat of life or the threat of peace, a threat against your peace, is enough reason. So keep those things in mind. Thank you all for watching. You have a great day.